I never thought I'd be sitting in an empty house at 38 weeks pregnant, watching my husband pack his bags for a guy's trip to Las Vegas. The suitcase lay open on our bed, our marital bed, while I stood in the doorway, one hand resting on my swollen belly, fighting back tears that I refused to let him see. "You'll be fine," Tom said, casually tossing in another shirt. "Your due date isn't for another 2 weeks." He glanced at me with that familiar half smile that used to make my heart flutter, but now made my stomach churn. "Besides, you can always drive yourself to the hospital if anything happens." The casual cruelty of his words hung in the air between us. I felt our baby kick, as if sensing my distress. 7 years of marriage, and this was what it had come to. Me, standing alone, while my husband chose his friends over his family. Again. "What if something goes wrong?" I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. "What if—" "Nothing's going to go wrong, Olivia," he interrupted, zipping up his suitcase with a finality that echoed through the room. "You're being dramatic, as usual. This is my last chance to have some fun before the baby comes and everything changes." Everything changes. The words hit me like a physical blow. In his mind, our child was already a burden, an end to his freedom, rather than the beginning of something beautiful we'd create together. Or so I'd thought. I watched him walk out that door, carrying his weekend bag and what remained of my illusions about our marriage. The house felt cavernous around me, filled with the ghostly echoes of all the things we'd left unsaid. I sat down heavily on our bed, my hand still protectively cradling my belly, and for the first time, I allowed myself to see Tom, really see him, for who he was. The signs had been there from the beginning, hadn't they? The subtle dismissals of my feelings, the way he'd roll his eyes when I expressed concern about anything, how he'd make plans without consulting me and expect me to just fall in line. I'd brushed it all aside, made excuses, told myself it was just his way. But now, with our child about to enter the world, the weight of his emotional absence crushed me. My phone buzzed. A message from my sister, Emma. "Everything okay?" she asked. I stared at those 2 simple words, feeling them crack something open inside me. Was everything okay? Had it ever been? That night, as I lay alone in our too large bed, I felt our baby move inside me, strong and determined. I placed both hands on my belly and whispered, "We deserve better than this, little one." "We both do." I didn't know it then, but those words would become my mantra in the days to come. They would give me strength when I needed it most, courage when I felt lost, and eventually, they would lead me to make the hardest and best decision of my life. But first, I had to survive the weekend. As I drifted off to sleep, my phone lit up with a notification. Tom posting pictures from the airport with his friends, all smiles and beers without a care in the world. I turned the phone face down and closed my eyes, trying to ignore the mounting pressure in my lower back that had been building for the last hour. It wasn't until I felt the first real contraction that I realized this weekend might not go as Tom had so confidently predicted. The contractions started like a distant storm, subtle at first, then gradually building in intensity. By midnight, I could no longer deny what was happening. I sat on the edge of the bathtub, timing the contractions with my phone's app, watching as they became more regular, more insistent. 20 minutes apart, then 15, then 12. I tried calling Tom. Once, twice, 3 times. Each call went straight to voicemail. The last time I left a message, my voice trembling but controlled. "I'm in labor. Please call me back." The words felt hollow, inadequate for the magnitude of what was happening. My sister Emma answered on the first ring. "Olivia, what's wrong?" "The baby's coming," I managed between breaths. "Tom's in Vegas and I—" A contraction cut off my words, stronger than the others. I gripped the phone tighter, breathing through the pain like we'd learned in birthing class. Classes Tom had attended reluctantly, checking his phone more often than paying attention. "I'm coming over right now," Emma said, her voice firm and steady. "Don't move. Have you called your doctor?" Dr. Patterson was already on call at the hospital. "Get here when you can," she said after I described my contractions. "But don't rush. First babies often take their time." I packed my hospital bag between contractions, realizing with a strange detachment that Tom had never even asked what I was planning to bring. Each item I placed in the bag felt like a statement. The soft nightgown I'd bought myself, the lavender-scented lotion that helped me relax, the tiny yellow onesie my mother had given me. I was creating a space for myself and my baby, a space that felt increasingly separate from Tom. Emma arrived within 30 minutes, her face flushed from rushing. She took one look at me and pulled me into a hug. I hadn't realized how desperately I needed that simple human contact until I felt myself breaking down in her arms. "He just left," I sobbed, the words I'd been holding back all day finally spilling out. He knew this could happen, and he just left, like we didn't matter at all. "Hey!" Emma pulled back, her hands on my shoulders, her eyes fierce. "You matter. This baby matters. And right now you both need you to be strong. We can deal with Tom later." As if on cue, my phone lit up with a text from him. A group photo at some club, everyone holding drinks, Tom's arm around a blonde woman I didn't recognize. The caption read, "Vegas baby, best weekend ever." I stared at the photo until another contraction washed over me. This one strong enough to make me gasp. Emma took the phone from my hand and turned it off without a word. "We're doing this our way," she said, helping me breathe through the pain. "You don't need his negativity right now." The drive to the hospital was surreal. The city streets were nearly empty at this hour, streetlights casting long shadows across the pavement. Each contraction felt like a wave now, building and cresting, demanding all of my attention. Emma kept one hand on the wheel, the other reached back to hold mine, providing an anchor in the storm. At the hospital, the staff was expecting us. A nurse named Maria helped me into a wheelchair, her kindness making my eyes well up again. "First baby?" she asked gently. I nodded, then added, "My husband's away." Maria's eyes met Emma's briefly, and something unspoken passed between them. "Well," Maria said, her voice warm and firm, "you've got quite a support team here. Let's get you settled." The labor and delivery room was nothing like I'd imagined during all those months of preparation. It was both more clinical and more comforting than I'd expected. Emma helped me change into my nightgown, while Maria set up monitoring equipment. The sound of my baby's heartbeat filled the room, strong, steady, determined. "Your little one's doing great," Maria assured me, adjusting the monitors. "And you're already 5 centimeters dilated. You've been doing the hard part all by yourself at home. All by yourself." The words echoed in my mind as another contraction built. I hadn't been by myself, not really. I had my sister, my doctor, this kind nurse. I had myself, stronger than I'd realized. And I had my baby, this tiny person who was already teaching me about courage and perseverance. As the night deepened and my labor intensified, I found myself thinking less and less about Tom's absence, and more about the future stretching out before me. Each contraction brought me closer not just to meeting my baby, but to a revelation that was slowly taking shape in my mind. The sun was just beginning to rise when Dr. Patterson came to check on me again. "You're nearly there, Olivia," she said encouragingly. "Your baby's going to be here soon." I gripped Emma's hand tighter as another contraction peaked. Through the window, I could see the sky turning from black to deep blue to pink. Nature's reminder that even the longest night eventually ends. My phone lay forgotten in my hospital bag, still turned off, while somewhere in Vegas, Tom was probably just heading to bed. What he didn't know, what I was just beginning to understand myself, was that when the sun rose fully, everything really would be different. Just not in the way he'd imagined. They say that giving birth changes you forever. What they don't tell you is that sometimes the change begins before the baby even arrives. In those final moments when you're caught between who you were and who you're about to become. "You're fully dilated," Dr. Patterson announced, her voice cutting through the haze of my exhaustion. "It's time to push, Olivia." The morning sun was streaming through the window now, casting a golden glow across the delivery room. I'd been in labor for nearly 12 hours, each contraction bringing me closer to this moment. Emma hadn't left my side once, her unwavering presence a stark contrast to Tom's absence. "I can't," I whispered, gripped by a sudden fear. "I'm not strong enough." "Look at me," Emma said firmly, her hand squeezing mine. "You've already proven how strong you are. You've got this." Beauty. The next contraction built like a tidal wave, and with it came a primal urge to push. I bore down with all my strength, channeling every ounce of frustration, fear, and determination I'd been holding inside. Through the intense pressure and burning sensation, I heard Dr. Patterson's encouraging words. "That's it, Olivia. Your baby's coming." Between pushes, my mind flickered to Tom. He would be waking up in his hotel room about now, probably nursing a hangover, completely unaware that his child was about to enter the world. I had stopped trying to call him hours ago, after Emma showed me his latest social media post, a bleary-eyed selfie with the caption, "What happens in Vegas?" Another contraction, another push. I focused on my breathing, on the steady beep of the fetal monitor, on Emma's voice counting down with me. The pressure built to an almost unbearable level. "The head is crowning," Dr. Patterson announced. "One more big push, Olivia." With a final surge of strength I didn't know I possessed, I pushed. The pressure peaked, and then suddenly released. A tiny cry filled the room. Strong, indignant, alive. "It's a girl!" Dr. Patterson exclaimed, placing my daughter immediately on my chest. "She's perfect." The world narrowed to this single moment. My daughter's warm weight against my skin, her tiny fingers flexing, her eyes squinting up at me. She had a shock of dark hair, my nose, and what looked like Tom's chin. But as I gazed at her, I saw something else, something entirely her own, a fierce independence already evident in the way she held her head, in the strength of her cry. "Hello, little one," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "I'm your mama." Emma was crying too, her phone forgotten in her hand as she leaned in to get a better look at her niece. "She's beautiful, Olivia. Absolutely beautiful." The next hour passed in a blur of medical procedures and first moments. My daughter, whom I named Lily, was weighed, measured, and declared perfectly healthy at 7 pounds, 6 ounces. I delivered the placenta, was cleaned up, and helped to nurse Lily for the first time. Through it all, my phone remained silent. No calls, no texts from Tom. It wasn't until later, when Lily was sleeping peacefully in the bassinet beside my bed, and Emma had stepped out to call our parents, that I finally turned my phone back on. The messages flooded in immediately. Missed calls from friends, congratulatory texts from coworkers who'd heard the news through Emma, and finally, a single text from Tom sent just 30 minutes ago. "Flight delayed. Vegas has been insane. Should be home tonight instead of this afternoon. Hope everything's still good there." I stared at the message, feeling an odd sense of calm settle over me. In those few casual words, Tom had revealed everything I needed to know about his priorities, his character, and the future that awaited us if I stayed. Lily stirred in her bassinet, making those tiny newborn sounds that already tugged at my heart. I reached out to stroke her cheek, marveling at her perfect features, her complete innocence. In that touch, I made a promise, to her and to myself. "We deserve better," I whispered, echoing the words I'd spoken just yesterday, though it felt like a lifetime ago. But this time, they weren't just words. They were a declaration of independence. I picked up my phone and began typing a message to my sister. "Emma, when you get back, we need to talk. I know what I have to do." As I hit send, Lily opened her eyes and looked directly at me, her gaze surprisingly focused for a newborn. In that moment, I felt stronger than I ever had in my life. The path ahead would be challenging, but I was no longer afraid. I had brought a new life into the world all by myself. I could certainly build a new life for us too. The sun was high in the sky now, filling the room with warm light. In a few hours, Tom would land in Las Vegas, check his messages, and finally realize what he'd missed. But by then, the changes would already be in motion. Because while he'd been gambling in Vegas, I'd won something far more valuable: my clarity, my courage, and the unshakable certainty that my daughter deserved to grow up seeing her mother strong, respected, and valued. I picked up my phone one last time and opened my banking app. The joint account Tom and I shared showed several large withdrawals from the Bellagio casino. I took a deep breath and pressed the number for our family lawyer, saved in my contacts for what I had always told myself was just in case. That just in case had finally arrived. The next 24 hours passed in a whirlwind of baby snuggles, medical checks, and quiet preparation. I hadn't told Tom about Lily's birth, a decision that surprised even me with how easy it was to make. Each time my finger hovered over his contact information, I remembered his casual dismissal of my concerns, his laughing suggestion that I could drive myself to the hospital. "Mrs. Walker?" A nurse I hadn't seen before stepped into the room, holding a tablet. "Your husband just called the front desk. He's on his way up." My heart rate spiked, but I kept my voice steady. Thank you. I glanced at Emma, who immediately understood. She picked up Lily from my arms and settled into the chair by the window. Tom burst into the room minutes later, still carrying his weekend bag, his face flushed and hair disheveled. He stopped short at the sight of Lily in Emma's arms, his mouth falling open. What? When? He stammered, looking between me and our daughter. Yesterday morning, I said quietly, watching his face. About 6 hours after you posted that group photo from the club. He took a step forward, reaching for Lily, but Emma subtly turned away, continuing to rock our sleeping daughter. The message was clear. He would not get to sweep in and play the doting father without acknowledging what had happened. Why didn't you call me? He demanded, his voice rising. I had a right to know. I did call you, Tom. 3 times when my labor started. Then I texted. Then I called again. I kept my voice low, mindful of Lily. You were too busy having the best weekend ever to check your phone. He had the grace to look embarrassed, but only for a moment. You knew this was my last chance to have some fun before the baby came. You could have waited. Waited? Emma interrupted, her voice sharp. What exactly do you think labor is, Tom? A scheduled appointment? He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. That's not what I meant. This was supposed to be our moment. Together. And you've turned it into some kind of ambush. I felt a calm settle over me. The kind that comes with absolute certainty. No, Tom. You turned it into this the moment you decided that a weekend of partying was more important than being here for your wife and child. I'm here now, he protested, spreading his arms wide. I came as soon as I heard. You're here now because the front desk called to tell you your wife had given birth, I corrected him. Not because you were concerned enough to check on me yourself. A noise from the hallway made us all turn. My parents stood in the doorway, my mother's face a mix of joy at seeing her granddaughter and barely contained anger at Tom. My father's expression was harder to read, but his hands were clenched at his sides. Mom, Dad, I said softly, meet your granddaughter, Lily. My mother moved past Tom as if he weren't there, going straight to Emma and the baby. My father remained in the doorway, his eyes fixed on Tom. Mr. Collins, Tom started, but my father held up a hand. Save it, he said quietly. I think you've said enough. The tension in the room was palpable. Tom looked around, seemingly realizing for the first time that he was completely alone in this situation. No one was going to rush to smooth things over, to make excuses for him, to pretend everything was fine. Olivia, he tried again, his voice taking on the cajoling tone I'd heard so many times before. Baby, I know I messed up, but we can fix this. We're a family now. I looked at Lily, peaceful in my mother's arms now, then back at Tom. You're right about one thing. We are a family, Lily and I, and we deserve better than someone who treats us as an inconvenience. What are you saying? His voice had an edge to it now. I reached for the envelope on my bedside table, the one my lawyer had delivered earlier that morning. I'm saying that when I leave this hospital, I won't be going home with you. The papers inside were clear and concise. Separation agreement, temporary custody arrangement, and a detailed accounting of our joint finances, including his Vegas spending spree. Tom's face went from red to white as he scanned the documents. You can't do this, he sputtered. You can't just decide. Actually, I can, I interrupted, my voice stronger than I'd ever heard it. And I have. You can either sign these now and we can handle this civilly, or we can let our lawyers sort it out. But either way, this is happening. He looked around the room again, perhaps hoping someone would take his side, tell me I was being unreasonable. But he found no allies here. My father stepped fully into the room now, closing the door behind him with a quiet click that somehow seemed to echo with finality. Lily chose that moment to wake up, her tiny face scrunching before letting out a cry. Without thinking, Tom took a step back from the sound, while I instinctively reached for her. The contrast in our reaction said everything about our readiness for parenthood. As my mother placed Lily in my arms, I looked up at Tom one last time. You can be part of her life, Tom, but you'll have to earn it. And it starts with respecting me as her mother. He stood there for a long moment, the papers crumpled slightly in his grip, looking at the daughter he hadn't bothered to be present for. Finally, he placed the documents on the foot of my bed. I'll have my lawyer review these, he said stiffly, then turned and walked out of the room without another word. The door closed behind him, and I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Lily had settled against my chest, her tiny hand gripping my hospital gown. My mother sat on one side of the bed, my father on the other, while Emma stood watch by the door. "You did good, sweetheart," my father said softly, placing his hand over mine. "You did real good." I looked down at my daughter, feeling tears slide down my cheeks, not of sadness or fear, but of relief and determination. The hard part wasn't over, not by a long shot, but for the first time in years, I felt like I was exactly where I needed to be, doing exactly what I needed to do. Outside, the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the hospital room floor. Another day was ending, but for Lily and me, it was just the beginning. The first few weeks of motherhood were a blur of midnight feedings, diaper changes, and adapting to a completely new rhythm of life. But they were also my first taste of true independence, something I hadn't realized I'd been missing until I found it again. Emma had insisted I stay with her until I got back on my feet, and her spare bedroom became our sanctuary. It wasn't huge, but it was enough for a bassinet, a changing table, and the essentials I'd packed while Tom was at work the day after I left the hospital. The rest of my things were in storage, waiting until I found a place of my own. "You didn't take much," Tom had said when he came home to find half the closet empty. He stood in the doorway of our bedroom, his bedroom now, watching as I zipped up my last bag. "I only took what was mine," I replied, checking Lily in her carrier. She was sleeping peacefully, unaware of the tension in the room. "Everything we bought for the baby is still in the nursery. We can work out a schedule once you've signed the papers." His lawyer had been reviewing the separation agreement for a week, suggesting modifications that my lawyer and I had mostly accepted. It wasn't about winning anymore. It was about moving forward. Now, 3 weeks later, I was sitting in a realtor's office, Lily sleeping against my chest in her wrap carrier, while Emma reviewed listings on the agent's computer. "This one's within your budget." Monica, the realtor, pointed to a 2-bedroom apartment in a quiet neighborhood. "First floor, so no stairs to manage with the stroller. There's a park nearby and it's still within the school district you mentioned." I was thinking about school districts already. It seemed surreal, but also right. Every decision I made now wasn't just for me. It was laying the groundwork for Lily's future. "I'd like to see it," I said, adjusting Lily as she stirred. "Today, if possible." Monica made a quick call while Emma scrolled through more photos of the apartment. "It looks good, Olivia. Lots of natural light, and that kitchen is much nicer than the last place we saw." The apartment was everything Monica had promised, and more. High ceilings made the modest space feel larger, and the second bedroom had a window seat I could already picture becoming Lily's reading nook when she was older. The kitchen opened to a small dining area, and the living room had built-in bookshelves that made me think of all the bedtime stories ahead of us. "The landlord is willing to do a 2-year lease," Monica explained as we walked through. "And they allow painting, as long as you return it to neutral when you leave." I stood in what could be Lily's room, imagining soft yellows and gentle greens on the walls. This could be home. "I'll take it," I said, surprising myself with how certain I felt. Later that evening, as Emma and I sat on her couch with tea, Lily sleeping in her portable bassinet nearby, my phone buzzed with a text from Tom. "Signed the papers today. Lawyer will deliver them tomorrow. Can we talk about visitation?" I showed the message to Emma, who squeezed my hand. "You've got this," she said softly. I typed back, "Thank you. Yes, we can discuss visitation. I'm moving into a new place next week. We can meet with the mediator to work out a schedule." His response came quickly. "A new place? Where?" I took a deep breath before replying. "I'll share the address once everything is finalized. We can arrange supervised visits at my parents' house until then." There was a long pause before his next message. "Supervised? I'm her father, Olivia. You can't keep her from me." "I'm not keeping her from you," I wrote back. "I'm establishing boundaries. We can revisit the arrangement in a few months, depending on how things go." No response came after that. I put the phone down and went to check on Lily. She was starting to stir, right on schedule for her evening feeding. As I lifted her, she opened her eyes and looked at me with that intense gaze that still amazed me. "Tomorrow's a big day, little one," I whispered, settling into the rocking chair Emma had bought for us. "We're going shopping for your new room." The next few days passed in a whirlwind of preparations. My parents helped with the security deposit for the apartment, despite my protests. "Consider it an investment in our granddaughter's future," my father said, in a tone that brooked no argument. Emma took time off work to help me paint and move in. We chose a soft buttercream for the living room and that gentle green I'd imagined for Lily's room. With each brush stroke, each box unpacked, each piece of furniture arranged, our new home took shape. The first night in the apartment was both terrifying and liberating. After Emma left, after Lily was fed and changed and sleeping in her crib, a gift from my parents, I stood in the middle of my new living room and just breathed. The space was smaller than the house I'd shared with Tom, but it felt bigger somehow. Maybe because there was no tension in the air, no walking on eggshells, no constant awareness of another person's mood determining the atmosphere of the home. My phone buzzed. Another text from Tom. My lawyer says supervised visits aren't necessary. I want to see my daughter. I looked at Lily's sleeping form on the baby monitor and typed, "We can discuss this with the mediator on Tuesday. I've already scheduled the appointment." Then I turned off my phone, made myself a cup of chamomile tea, and curled up on my new secondhand couch with the parenting book Emma had given me. Through the window, I could see the park Monica had mentioned, its trees silhouetted against the evening sky. In the quiet of our new home, with my daughter's soft breathing coming through the monitor, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Peace. Not the false peace of avoiding conflict, but the true peace that comes from knowing you're exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you need to do. A small cry came from Lily's room. Not distressed, just letting me know she was ready for her next feeding. As I got up to go to her, I caught my reflection in the window. The woman looking back at me was tired, yes, but also stronger, more confident than the one who had watched her husband pack for Vegas just a few weeks ago. That woman had been afraid to be alone. This one was learning that being alone was far better than being with someone who made you feel lonely. The mediation office was housed in a modern building downtown, its walls painted in calming shades of blue and gray. I arrived early, Lily sleeping soundly in her carrier, and found myself studying my reflection in the elevator's mirrored walls. I had chosen my outfit carefully, a navy blazer over a simple dress, professional but approachable. The woman in the reflection looked capable, composed. I straightened my shoulders, reminding myself that I was Olivia. Tom's voice came from behind me as I signed in at the reception desk. I turned to find him standing there in his best business suit, the one he wore to important client meetings. He looked tired, the kind of tired that comes from more than just lack of sleep. "Hello, Tom," I replied, keeping my voice neutral. His eyes went immediately to Lily, who was starting to stir. "She's grown," he said softly, taking a step closer. "Babies do that." I adjusted Lily's blanket, a subtle but clear signal that I wasn't ready for him to hold her yet. The mediator, Dr. Rachel Tremblay, called us into her office before the silence could stretch too long. The room was warm and professional, with comfortable chairs arranged in a way that didn't feel confrontational. "Before we begin," Dr. Tremblay said once we were seated, "I want to remind you both that our goal here is to create a healthy co-parenting relationship that serves the best interests of your child." What followed was 2 hours of careful negotiation. Tom pushed for immediate overnight visits. I held firm on starting with supervised daytime visits. Dr. Tremblay guided us through the discussion with practiced skill, helping us find middle ground. "What about 3 supervised visits per week to start?" she suggested. 2 hours each at Olivia's parents' house. After a month, if things are going well, we can discuss extending the duration and gradually moving toward unsupervised visits. I watched Tom's jaw clench at the word supervised, but he nodded. We hammered out the details, schedules, expectations, communication protocols. Everything would be in writing, documented through a co-parenting app rather than direct texts or calls. "I know how to take care of my own daughter," Tom said at one point, frustration evident in his voice. "Do you know her feeding schedule?" I asked quietly. "Her sleep patterns? Which side she prefers to nurse on? What positions comfort her when she's gassy? Because I do. I've learned all of this while I've been what?" he challenged. "While you've been absent," I finished, my voice firm but not unkind. "This isn't punishment, Tom. It's about Lily's comfort and security. You need to earn her trust, just like you need to earn back mine." Something in my calm delivery seemed to reach him. He sat back, the fight leaving his posture. "What do I need to do?" By the end of the session, we had a detailed plan in place. Tom would attend a parenting class specifically designed for fathers. He would stick to the supervised visit schedule without complaint. All major decisions would be discussed in advance through the co-parenting app. As we left the office, Tom reached out as if to touch Lily's cheek, then stopped himself. "When can I start the visits?" "The first one is scheduled for Saturday," I reminded him, referring to the calendar we'd just set up. 2 o'clock at my parents' house. He nodded, then hesitated. "Olivia, I'm sorry. About Vegas. About everything." I looked at him. Really looked at him. For the first time since that day in the hospital. The man I had married was still in there somewhere, but so were all the red flags I'd ignored for years. "I know you are," I said finally, "but sorry isn't enough anymore. Lily deserves actions, not apologies." Back home in our apartment, I settled into the routine that was becoming familiar. Lily nursed while I scrolled through job listings on my laptop. My maternity leave wouldn't last forever, and I needed to plan ahead. My savings were healthy, thanks to years of squirreling away money in a separate account, a habit that had started after Tom's first big gambling spree. But I wanted the security of a steady income. A message popped up from Emma. "How did it go?" I typed back one-handed. "Better than expected. Tom agreed to supervised visits and parenting classes. Proud of you, sis." Pride. That's what I was feeling too, I realized. Not in Tom's cooperation, but in myself. In my ability to stand firm, to advocate for my daughter's needs, to build a new life piece by piece. Lily fell asleep after nursing, her little hand curled around my finger. I sat there watching her, marveling at how someone so tiny could inspire such strength. My phone buzzed with a notification from the co-parenting app. Tom had downloaded it and completed his profile. He had also signed up for the recommended parenting class, sending proof of registration through the app. Small steps, but steps in the right direction. That evening, as I prepared dinner in my little kitchen, I found myself actually humming, while Lily watched from her bouncer on the counter. The sound surprised me. When was the last time I had felt light enough to hum? The marinara sauce I was making filled the apartment with warm, comforting aromas. I had invited Emma over for dinner, a small celebration of sorts. Not of the mediation's success, but of something bigger. The growing certainty that I was capable of handling whatever came next. As if reading my thoughts, Lily made a happy gurgling sound. I turned to her, sauce-covered spoon in hand. "That's right, little one," I said, smiling. "We've got this. One day at a time." The setting sun streamed through the kitchen window, casting everything in a warm glow. In that moment, I felt something shift inside me, the last traces of doubt giving way to quiet confidence. The path ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was ready for it. I was ready for everything. 3 months can change everything. Lily was growing faster than I could believe, her personality emerging more each day. She had Tom's smile, something I'd finally made peace with, but her determination was all mine. The supervised visits had been going well enough that we'd started discussing the transition to unsupervised time, though Tom's enthusiasm for parenting seemed to wax and wane. I was sitting in my favorite coffee shop, updating my resume while Lily napped in her stroller, when a familiar voice caught my attention. "Olivia? Olivia Walker?" I looked up to find Mark Tremblay, my old colleague from the marketing firm I'd worked at before joining Tom's company. He was carrying his laptop and a cup of coffee, looking exactly as I remembered. Kind eyes, salt and pepper hair, and that genuine smile that always made everyone feel at ease. "Mark, it's been what, 3 years?" "At least," he said, then noticed Lily. His smile softened. "And who's this little one?" "This is Lily," I said, adjusting her blanket. "She's 3 months old. She's beautiful." He gestured to the empty chair across from me. "Mind if I join you for a minute? Unless you're busy." I glanced at my laptop screen, where my half-finished resume stared back at me. "Actually, I could use a break, and maybe some advice if you're willing." Over the next hour, Mark and I caught up. I found myself telling him everything. The pregnancy, Vegas, the separation. He listened without judgment, occasionally offering insights from his own experience as a divorced father of 2 teenagers. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "we're actually looking for someone to head up our digital marketing division. Someone who understands both the creative and analytical sides." My heart skipped a beat. That had been my specialty before Tom had convinced me to leave and join his family's business. "Are you serious?" "Very." The hours are flexible, and we have an on-site daycare center now. He pulled out his business card. Think about it. I'd love to have you back on the team. That evening, as I gave Lily her bath, my mind was racing with possibilities. The job would be perfect. A chance to restart my career on my own terms. But it would also mean major changes in our routine, including the visitation schedule with Tom. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a message from the co-parenting app. Tom wanted to adjust Saturday's visit time. Again. Can we move it to 4 p.m.? Client meeting ran long. I took a deep breath, remembering Dr. Tremblay's advice about flexibility versus boundaries. The agreement is for 2 p.m. Lily needs consistency. Please try to arrange meetings around your time with her. His response came quickly. It's an important client, Olivia. Don't be difficult. I'm not being difficult, I'm being a parent. 2 p.m. or we'll need to reschedule for another day. After a long pause, fine, I'll make it work. Progress, of sorts. The old me would have rearranged everything to accommodate him. The new me understood the importance of standing firm. The next morning, I dropped Lily off at my mother's house and went to interview at Mark's firm. The office had changed, more open, more modern, but the energy was familiar. Creative, collaborative, alive with possibilities. The position is yours if you want it, Mark said after my presentation to the leadership team. We can be flexible with the start date, give you time to arrange childcare and everything else. I accepted on the spot. Driving home, I felt lighter than I had in months. I had a career plan again, something that was completely mine. When I picked up Lily and told my mother the news, she hugged us both. I'm so proud of you, sweetheart, she said, wiping away tears. You've come so far. That night, after Lily was asleep, I sat on my small balcony with a glass of wine, looking at the stars. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma. Free for lunch tomorrow? Have someone I want you to meet. I smiled, knowing exactly what she was up to. She'd been trying to introduce me to her new coworker for weeks, a single dad who, according to her, was kind, smart, and makes amazing dad jokes. Not ready, I texted back, but ask me again in a few months. Her response was immediate. Proud of you for knowing what you need. And I did know. For the first time in my adult life, I truly knew what I needed, what I wanted, and what I deserved. The future stretched out before me, not as a source of anxiety anymore, but as a canvas of possibilities. Inside, Lily made a small sound in her sleep. I went to check on her, watching her tiny chest rise and fall. In the soft glow of her nightlight, I saw both her father and myself in her features. But more importantly, I saw her own unique self emerging. Dream big, little one, I whispered. Your mama's got your back. Back on the balcony, I opened my laptop and began working on a personal project I'd been thinking about for weeks. A blog about single motherhood, career transitions, and rebuilding life after upheaval. I had a story to tell, and maybe, just maybe, it could help someone else find their strength too. The night was quiet, peaceful. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Tom's visit, daycare tours, work preparations, but I was ready for them. 3 months ago, I had been a woman watching her husband pack for Vegas, afraid of being alone. Now I was someone else entirely. Stronger, wiser, and absolutely certain that being alone was infinitely better than being with someone who made you forget your own worth. I took another sip of wine and began to write. To any woman who's ever been told to settle for less than she deserves. 6 months into my new job, I was presenting a digital marketing strategy to our biggest client when my phone buzzed silently in my pocket. A quick glance showed Tom's name on the co-parenting app. I pushed down the familiar flutter of anxiety and finished my presentation with confidence I'd worked hard to build. Excellent work, Olivia, Mark said as the client team filed out, clearly impressed. That pharmaceutical campaign is going to be a game changer. Only then did I check the message. Lily has a fever. Picked her up from daycare early. She's at my place. My heart raced, but I forced myself to read the rest of his message. Already gave her infant Tylenol. Temperature 100.2. She's sleeping now. Thought you should know. I sat down heavily in my office chair, a mix of emotions washing over me. Worry for Lily, of course, but also surprise. Tom had handled the situation exactly as we'd discussed in our parenting plan. No drama, no panic, just clear communication and appropriate action. Everything okay? Mark asked, noticing my expression. Lily's running a fever, I explained. She's with her father. Go, he said immediately. We can handle things here. The drive to Tom's new apartment was shorter than usual thanks to light traffic. When he opened the door, the scene inside was not what I expected. The living room had been transformed since my last visit. A playpen in one corner, baby toys neatly organized, even a framed photo of Lily on the wall. She's still sleeping, Tom said quietly, leading me to the guest room he'd converted into a nursery. Fever's down to 99.8. Lily was peaceful in the portable crib, her cheeks slightly flushed but her breathing even. Her favorite stuffed bunny, the one I thought we'd lost last week, was tucked beside her. Found it in my car, Tom explained, following my gaze. Must have fallen out of the diaper bag during the last transfer. We retreated to the living room, maintaining the careful distance we'd established over the past months. I called Dr. Morris, he said, referring to Lily's pediatrician. She said to monitor the fever and call if it goes above 101. I've been keeping a log. He showed me his phone, where he'd been tracking temperature readings and medication times. I sat down, suddenly overwhelmed. This was not the Tom who'd left for Vegas all those months ago. This was a father. Thank you, I said sincerely. You handled this really well. He shrugged, but I could see he was pleased. I've been paying attention, taking notes during the visits, reading those parenting books you recommended. I've noticed. And I had. Over the past few months, Tom had gradually shifted from treating visitation like an obligation to actually engaging with Lily's care. He asked questions about her routine, remembered her preferences, even started attending her doctor's appointments. The parenting classes helped, he admitted. Made me realize how much I didn't know, how much I was missing by not being present. A small cry from the nursery interrupted our conversation. We both moved toward it, then Tom stepped back, letting me take the lead. Lily was awake, cranky but not distressed. Her temperature had dropped further, 99.1. Want me to make her bottle? Tom asked. You've probably got her favorite way of holding her when she's not feeling well. The comment struck me. 6 months ago, he wouldn't have even considered that she had a favorite way of being held. Now he was not only aware of it, but acknowledging my expertise as her mother. As I settled into the rocking chair with Lily, Tom brought the perfectly prepared bottle. Warm, but not too hot. Just the way she liked it. Olivia, he said hesitantly, I've been thinking. I know my supervised visitation period is officially over next week, but I'd like to keep the current schedule for a while longer, until I'm more confident. I looked up at him, surprised. You want to continue supervised visits voluntarily? He nodded. I'm still learning. And your parents, they've been really helpful, teaching me things, sharing stories about when you were little. I'm not ready to go solo yet. Tears pricked at my eyes, but I blinked them away. This was what growth looked like. This was what putting our child first looked like. Okay, I said softly. We can do that. Later that evening, after Lily's fever had broken and we were back home in our apartment, I received another message from Tom. Thanks for not giving up on me as a father. I know I didn't deserve the chance. I thought carefully before responding. Lily deserves to have a father who tries. You're trying. That night, as I worked on my blog, which had grown to have a modest but engaged following of other single mothers, I wrote about the unexpected ways healing can happen. Not just our own healing, but the healing we witness in others when we hold firm to our boundaries while leaving space for growth. My phone lit up with a text from Mark. Client loved the presentation. Board wants to fast-track the campaign. Promotion discussion next week? I smiled, thinking about how far I'd come from the woman who'd dimmed her professional light to fit into Tom's world. The promotion would mean more responsibility, but also more flexibility and resources to build my team the way I wanted. Lily stirred in her crib, making the soft sounds that meant she was dreaming. I went to check on her, touching her forehead gently, cool and normal. On her dresser sat the framed quote Emma had given me for my birthday. She believed she could, so she did. Looking at my sleeping daughter, I felt a deep sense of peace. We were writing our own story now, one where strength didn't mean shutting people out, but knowing how to let them earn their way back in. One where forgiveness didn't mean forgetting, but making space for change while protecting our own hearts. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. It always did. But tonight, in our cozy apartment with the stars twinkling outside, I knew with absolute certainty that we were exactly where we needed to be. Not at an ending, but in the middle of a beginning. 1 year. That's how long it had been since I'd watched Tom pack for Vegas, since I'd given birth alone, since I'd found the strength to start over. Lily's first birthday party was in full swing at the local park, and I stood back for a moment, taking in the scene before me. My daughter was perched in her high chair, gleefully smashing her hands into a small cake made specially for her. Her dark curls bounced as she giggled, her eyes bright with joy. Around her, our loved ones gathered. My parents, Emma and her new husband Steve, colleagues who'd become friends, and yes, Tom and his parents too. "She's got cake in her hair," Tom said, coming to stand beside me with a clean washcloth ready. The easy way he anticipated her needs now still surprised me sometimes. "Let her enjoy it," I replied, smiling. "That's what bath time is for." The past year had been a journey of transformation for both of us. Tom had stuck to his word about the extended supervised visits, gradually building his confidence as a father. He'd joined a support group for divorced dads, started therapy, and even began volunteering at a local youth center. The man who once couldn't be bothered to attend birthing classes was now teaching other fathers about the importance of being present. My own changes were equally profound. The promotion at work had come through, and I now led a team of talented marketers. My blog had grown into a community, with weekly support meetings for single mothers transitioning to independence. Last month, a publisher had reached out about turning my story into a book. "Remember last year?" Emma asked, joining us with paper plates for the adult cake. "If someone had told you then that you'd be here now," I knew what she meant. Here we were, celebrating our daughter's first birthday together, civilly, even warmly. Tom and I had found a way to be good parents without being husband and wife. It hadn't been easy. There were still difficult days, disagreements about schedules or parenting decisions, but we'd learned to handle them with maturity and respect. "Speech time," my father called out, tapping his glass with a spoon. I hadn't planned to speak, but looking at all these faces, people who'd supported us, believed in us, helped us grow, the words came naturally. "A year ago," I began, lifting Lily from her high chair and settling her on my hip. "I thought my world was ending. I was alone, afraid, and about to become a mother in circumstances I'd never imagined. But what I thought was an ending turned out to be a beginning." I glanced at Tom, who nodded encouragingly. We'd come so far from those bitter days in the hospital. This past year has taught me that strength isn't about never needing help. It's about knowing when to ask for it. That forgiveness isn't about forgetting the past, but about not letting it control your future. And most importantly, that love, real love, sometimes means letting go of what you thought you wanted to make room for what you truly need. Lily reached for my face, patting my cheek with her cake-covered hand. Everyone laughed, and I hugged her closer, not caring about the frosting now smeared on my dress. "To my daughter," I continued, "who taught me more about courage in her first year than I'd learned in all the years before. To our families, who showed us what unconditional support really means. And to new beginnings, wherever they may lead." Later, as the party wound down and Lily dozed in her stroller, Mark approached me with a gift bag. "From the team," he said, though I may have helped pick it out. Inside was a beautiful leather-bound planner, engraved with my name and a quote, "She built a life she loved from the ground up." "The publisher called again," he mentioned casually. "They're serious about the book deal." I looked around at the park where my daughter had just celebrated her first year of life. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the grass, but unlike the shadows of the past, these felt like gentle reminders of how far we'd come. Tom was packing up the gifts into his car. He'd have Lily for his regular weekend visit tomorrow. He'd converted his spare room into a proper nursery now, complete with a mural he'd painted himself. Small steps, steady progress. My phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Tremblay, our old mediator. "Saw your latest blog post. Would you consider speaking at our co-parenting workshop next month?" Another buzz. "Emma, dinner next week? David from accounting keeps asking about you." I smiled, slipping the phone back into my pocket. There would be time to consider all of that later. Right now, in this moment, I wanted to savor where I was. I walked over to the stroller where Lily slept peacefully, her tiny hand curled around the ear of her stuffed bunny. Bending down, I kissed her forehead softly. "Happy birthday, my brave girl," I whispered. "Thank you for helping me find my strength." The sun was setting as we headed home, painting the sky in brilliant shades of pink and gold. A year ago, I'd thought I was ending a chapter of my life. Now I understood that I'd actually been opening a whole new book. As I tucked Lily into her crib that night, I thought about the woman I'd been, standing in that doorway watching Tom pack for Vegas. I wished I could tell her that everything would be okay. Better than okay. That she was stronger than she knew, braver than she believed, and worthy of so much more than she'd settled for. But then again, maybe she'd known all along. Maybe she'd just needed someone to remind her. That someone turned out to be our daughter. I opened my laptop one last time before bed, navigating to my blog. The cursor blinked at the top of a blank page, waiting. I began to type, "To the woman reading this who isn't sure she can start over, you can. To the mother wondering if she's strong enough, you are. And to anyone who's ever felt alone in their darkest moment, your light is coming. Trust me, I know." Outside, the stars twinkled in the clear night sky. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new adventures, new opportunities for growth. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of what came next. I was ready for it all.